Hello everybody, Pat Sexton here again, and welcome to the third video for my website sextonresearcharts.com, which is mostly about technical analysis of shares, but it does cover a number of other investment items as well. I'm here today with Jennifer Dennehy, who works for SYS Wealth and Financial Planners. Now, I think most of you have heard of the 7 deadly sins, but we're going to cover the opposite ground here. Jennifer is going to talk about the 7 steps for financial security. So over to you, Jen.
Thanks, Pat. Hi, everybody. I was just in conversation with Pat recently, and we were talking about what advice, if we had our time back, that we would have loved to have heard when we were young and foolish, maybe. I suppose I was giving a lecture in UCC to final year med students a number of months ago, and this lecture, I suppose I felt really this is very valuable information. It should be shared with everybody, young and old. So the first step, this is all based, by the way, on a book called The Richest Man in Babylon by Clarkson. And he basically talks about these steps in parables. And it's a very, very simple little book. I'd advise everybody to get a copy.
The Richest Man in Babylon. I hadn't heard of it, actually. What's the author's name?
It is Clarkson. George Clarkson.
That's one to look up, But anyway, to save us having to buy the book.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about it.
Tell us the 7 points.
Yeah, so it's, George C. Clarkson.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So it's a great book. But anyway, I've got a copy for all my kids and tried to get them to read it.
However, and you were very impressed with it.
I was,
It's a
classic.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you seem to hit on something quite interesting.
So the first thing he says in the book, and this is kind of these 7 points will last forever. They're going to be just something that is very useful. The first one being save 10% of all you earn, right from day one.
This is point number 1.
So when Granny gives you a tenner, if you're lucky enough for Granny to give you a tenner, put €1 into your pocket.
Save
and pretend
10%.
that Granny gave you €9. That's the first thing. It's very simple. We're going to go through this fairly quickly because I know we'll be stuck in time, but we might get into a bit more detail.
Okay.
The second part of it is always spend less than you earn.
Okay.
Very simple, but not everybody manages to do that, especially when you're younger and the expenses are quite high and all of that sort of thing.
Yes.
So you're controlling your expenses, basically. That's the second step. The third part then is you invest your capital. So when you do manage to gather your savings,
yes,
you invest the capital, and this is where Pat is very expert in guiding everybody to how to invest and the steps to avoid and the steps to take. But you let compound interest do the rest.
Okay.
Compound interest, if everybody, and Pat again, you'll talk to them more about that, but it's the whole idea that time invested in the market.
Magic of compounding.
Yeah, exactly, and that will do a huge amount for you, and it's really hard to understand it unless you actually see it in graphic form, and I think we should do that at some point.
So that's 3 points. First of all, save 10% of everything as a general rule of thumb.
Yeah.
That's fairly conservative, because when you're young, at different stages in your life, maybe not just when you're young, you won't have very much in the way of disposable income, but try and save 10%.
Yes, and actually another way, if I may interrupt, is to look at it is to say, pay yourself first.
Yeah.
So you're taking that money, you're putting it away, and you're just, and it's...
So point number 1 is save 10%. Point number 2 is spend less than you earn.
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed at how many things you can cut back on when you just go down through what you're spending your money on. And sometimes the most enjoyable things are the things that are free or cost very little.
Exactly.
I mean, I find the swim in the sea during the summertime, which costs nothing.
Yeah.
One of the most enjoyable things. Right?
Exactly.
So that's number 2. Number 3, what was number 3 again?
Number 3 then is invest your capital and then compound interest. When you say invest,
you mean you don't leave it lying on a deposit account. Exactly. You have to embrace some risk.
You do.
Okay.
You do, unfortunately.
And we'll probably come back to that.
And there's obviously that's quite a complex. We could do hours and days on that.
So that's number 3.
But that is very important.
But invest in something that's risk-based, where the potential return will be there over the long term.
Now, I'll just put a little caveat into step number 3 for you.
Yeah.
I would, as you get older, and if you have dependents, I would build up a little nest egg first, like a little what they call a rainy day fund. So that's your emergency fund, which typically they say the rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months income.
Right,
that
in
should be
cash, yes.
if you have
as a
dependents,
buffer,
as a
because you could
buffer,
suddenly
an
lose your
emergency
job.
fund,
Yeah.
and
You
it
need
just
to hold
helps
something
you
in cash.
helps you sit, sleep at night.
Any investment portfolio should have a certain amount in cash,
Yeah.
because you could suddenly find the job has changed, you're being made redundant,
Yeah,
or you're self-employed, and next thing you have the COVID-19 crisis, which no one
Exactly.
saw coming, and next you've got no income for 3 months.
exactly.
And
So,
we're
so,
finding-
so rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, those who have
emergency
that
cash.
bit of cash put aside, whether it's a company or a person, are riding out this crisis without any great stress.
Yeah.
So have something aside. So that's point 3.
Number 3.
Number 4.
Number
so-
4 then is a little bit more difficult these days, but it's
Yes.
buy your own home if you can.
Okay.
And I know people would say, well,
Rather
easier
than
said than
renting,
done.
yeah.
Again, again, obviously house prices are far more expensive than they would have been 20 or 30 years ago as a percentage of salary that people had to earn in order to buy a house. But if you can at all do that, it is a hugely positive and very, very important investment. And the other part I would add to that step 4 is that not to use your house as an ATM, which we all were very tempted to do in the 2008-9,
What do you mean
before
by
that. As in, people decided to take equity out of their
Equity
house
release,
and
yeah.
borrow against the value of their house, which really
Leverage back up.
yeah, I would
So-
not recommend at all. Very, very strong.
No, that's number 4. Yeah.
Yeah, number 4. Number 5
Five, yeah.
is insure yourself.
Oh yes.
So there's a great story about the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts.
Mm.
And the Rockefellers basically had life assurance, and they had billions and billions and billions, and they were able to perpetuate that wealth through generations and generations by having life assurance.
So if one of them died.
So one of them died,
there
the
was a
money
plan.
went back into the central pot.
Okay.
The Vanderbilts, on the other hand, spent all of their money. They were just as wealthy, but 4 generations later, the first Vanderbilt died broke. So you need to insure yourself.
So,
It's a
so
very
take out life
fundamental-
insurance.
Take out life assurance, take out serious illness insurance if you can afford it when you're older, again, if you've got kids.
Yeah.
But actually you should also insure your biggest asset, which is yourself and your income. Because let's say I'm earning, 50,000 a year
Mm.
and I'm 40.
Mm.
I've got another 25 years of earning capacity in me. So you've got to insure your income, so that if you were out of work for any reason, that income is going to be still coming into the
I always
household.
thought that life assurance was critical if you had dependents.
Yes, it is.
But if you're a single person,
I wouldn't think it's as important.
okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. That's number 5.
Yeah.
Life assurance, okay. Number 6.
Number 6 is protect and preserve your capital.
Okay,
So
you've got to be conservative.
You got to be conservative. You got to try and avoid losses.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, especially when we've just been through
Yes.
some, turbulence in the markets. But again, I think
You take risks, but
It's Warren-
they've got to be limited.
yeah, it's Warren Buffett again. Rule number 1: don't lose money.
Yeah.
Rule number 2. I think we're running out of time here, but Pat, we might just discuss the last.
That's point
2.
6, isn't it?
Yeah.
Point 7. do we
And
have
point
time to
7 is
rush in point 7
invest in
before-
yourself and keep learning. Keep learning. You are the biggest
Education.
asset, so you just need to keep learning, keep investing
Knowledge
in
is
yourself,
power.
growing. Yeah. absolutely.
Okay, we'll finish up on
That's
that.
pretty quick.
We'll finish up on that note. Knowledge is power. Invest in yourself. Invest in education. So we may return to this topic for future videos. So thank you for your attention. This is Pat Sexton, Sexton Research Charts, and Jennifer Dennehy
Thank you,
of
Pat.
SYS Wealth and Financial Planners, signing off on this video.